How would you feel if you knew that your child was sad for a snow day or wanted to go to school over summer break? Wouldn't that be an amazing feeling to know that they were so comfortable and that they loved learning so much that was the case? Well, our guest today is one of our favorite kinds of guests, an activated mom who saw a need and created her own thing because she knew that the education system available to her and to her children was not right. It was broken. It was teaching down instead of teaching up and elevating their children. And so she created her own thing. Mimosa Jones Tunney is a writer, researcher, and the founder of both the American Emergent curriculum as well as the Schoolhouse, a private elementary school in New York. She's going to talk to us today about this curriculum that she's developed that's available to anyone across the country, even if you don't live in New York, as well as their amazing school that they have opened in New York. So join us today in welcoming Mimosa to the Teaching Your Toddler show. Hi, this is Mary Jo Tinlin from Teaching Your Toddler, and today we have a very special guest, Mimosa Jones Tunney. Hi, this is Mary Jo Tinlin from Teaching Your Toddler. And today we have a very special guest to talk to us about a very important subject. It's Mimosa Jones Tunney is going to join us today. Mimosa, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Mary Jo. Well, about 12 years ago, I started this journey of looking at education in the United States, and we can go into that more if you'd like to know the original story. But really, from this point forward, I have an 11 and 12-year-old. They were very young. They were toddlers at the time when I started this journey, and I knew enough about pedagogical science. My passion was education and education writing, both from a historical perspective and a pedagogical perspective, a science perspective. And what I realized was, like so many moms out there, excuse me, that I had nowhere to put my children. What I knew, what the data was telling us, what children really need wasn't being provided out there in schools or in any type of daycare environment. And so myself and a group of 36 educators decided to build the new American school, starting at 18 months, going through sixth grade, called the Schoolhouse, building a curriculum that was made for the child, that educators could get excited about, that was really advanced. In other words, we were going to smart up kids, not dumb them down. We were going to give them the things that people really have known over the last 150 years they need: movement, time outside, exploration, those types of things, while still hitting standards. Now we're in our sixth year at the brick and mortar school here in New York, and we have moved on into reaching communities nationwide with our Anywhere program. So I'm so pleased to be here today to talk to you about it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that you say smart up because that's one of those catchphrases, right? The kids go to school to get dumbed down, right? And so I
Yes.
love that you are looking at it from a more positive standpoint. So I would love to hear more about maybe we should talk a little bit about the education system in general, or what you were finding, and then I would love to hear a little bit more about how to ramp kids back up from probably not doing a lot with their brain all summer long.
Yeah, so I'm starting to get a little bit, bolder here as we've been working on this for over a decade now, and say that the public school system in the United States and the majority of private schools are no longer useful to the American public or the American child. So just like we've grown out of everything else, we're not using a rotary phone, we're not using antediluvian techniques to cure cancer. We have moved into the 21st century in every other portion of our life except for education. And we've known for a long time, teachers have known, schools have known, administrators have known that we now have the lowest rates of all time in terms of our proficiency with our children. We're at 32% proficiency in reading. The lowest proficiency we have is in American history, actually, at 11%. So what we're doing in public schools and most private schools is not working, but we know why it's not working. We know why it's not working because what children need, point blank, is to be interested in what they're learning, interested in the environment in which they attend every day, given enough freedom and movement to make them enjoy their 8 hours, but at the same time, enough structure so that they feel like they're listening to the adult, they're following the adult, they understand that civilization has a structure and there are rules and laws, and this is how we operate as a culture. And so in creating the American Emergent curriculum, we literally, Mary Jo, went down a list to say, what is wrong with education? And we came up with dozens of things, and we made it our priority over the last 5 years to fix every single one of those things at the brick and mortar school so that we have a model for people to see. They come from all over the country to see it. They walk in our doors. It's a completely transparent environment where they can see how children thrive when they're given the right curriculum, the right educator culture, and the right environment.
Wow. And is the target age group regular school age?
Yes. So we start now with our little house from 18 months. So your toddler listeners till 3 years old. And then we go from 3 to 12 years old in our schoolhouse environment. We wanted to make sure that educators were also incredibly joyful when they showed up to work. So some things very, very easy things to do that people do in the entrepreneurial and small business world, but that public education and private education do not do. For instance, listening to your educators, having a Friday meeting with them for 2 hours every Friday so we can inspire each other, share stories, share issues or challenges that might come up, bonus them when they're performing well. That was really important for us. And then give children a place to go where they don't want to go home at the end of the day because they have been so fulfilled. One of the things that we discovered, and this has been a discovery project over the last 5 years. In fact, we've done no press over the last 5 years until now because we really wanted to perfect what were our test scores, what were our seventh graders doing when they left the school. And I can talk about that as well. But we wanted to see how our children thrive and how they get so attached to being having heightened expectations of what they can achieve rather than pushing them down into this one size fits all.
Mm.
And what I was about to say is we discovered recently over the last few years that they call us to come in for snow days. And we have a lot of empirical research, but I think for me, that's one of the things that made us know we were building the new American school model. These kids wanted to be here on a snow day and they don't want to leave when the summer comes.
Oh my gosh, that says it all right
It
there.
does. It does.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean the kids have like all the rituals for snow day. How are they going to get the snow to come, right? And then for your
Yeah.
kids to not want to leave, that's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. I mean that I think that sets the stage very well to show that your techniques and your approach absolutely are working. So I'd love to hear about the postgraduate rates for sure in seventh grade
Sure.
from the schools. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then let's talk about what we can do for our kids.
Yeah, so the data has been really revealing to us. We started taking all sorts of research opportunities in the last 2 years after we had been established for three. What we found first and foremost is that children want to go home and continue working on what they were working on at school. So we don't do homework at the school. You can do a very cursory research poll, and you can't find one study that tells anyone that homework is good for a child between 0 and 12 years old. So what we do is something called family engagement, where we give one bigger project each week that the whole family can work on that is aligned to the curriculum. And we found that when children were going home, they not only were participating in family engagement, but let's say they were doing an in-depth study of Lima, Peru. They were going home and wanting to know more about that country, that capital. They were wanting to know more about the flora and fauna of Peru. And so for hours and hours. So this really took us by surprise. Then we test twice a year in fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. This year, our test came back a huge surprise for us. We were testing at twice the national average without teaching to the test. So, what that told us was, oh my gosh, here we are giving them so much information, so much confidence, so much pride in learning that they're able to turn around and pass any test that is put their way with flying colors. And then finally, we took, a 2 year sample in terms of our graduating sixth graders. They all go on to public and private schools. They all were ending up being a variety of student body presidents and team captains and getting straight A's and also choosing my favorite part of all this, because these are all the analytical things that, of course, people in the press ask you to sort of prove if something's working. But my favorite thing was they knew how to choose their friend groups. So they were looking for people who were confident, who were kind. We have a culture of kindness here at the schoolhouse. We start very early with Socratic seminar, even in kindergarten, to learn how to speak to one another, which we really need in this day and age. And here they were. they were able to choose friend groups that were aligned with their values. And that is huge going into middle school.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, to have the kids have that discernment already, that's
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. And I love that you talked about not teaching to the test, you're teaching them how to learn instead of like what to learn, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, the process.
Yes.
It's
So a
it's
classic example of that is that, we in this country, and this is why public school and most private schools are obsolete, we in this country cannot get away from this rote memorization piece. Rote memorization is really only good for mathematics and spelling. Those are two areas where you do need to practice every day, like golf, for instance. But otherwise, it's much more effective for any human being to understand the why and to also understand the what's next. And so instead of memorizing capitals, for instance, in geography, you want to understand how the Pacific and the Atlantic operate differently with ocean currents and how that affects the sea life in those oceans and how that would eventually affect the fishermen and their ability to sustain themselves economically. And through this American Emergent curriculum, we're able to teach children as young as kindergarten, 5 years old, what those basic concepts are because we've spent so much time honing in on the development stage and to get them to really the best way to get them to really internalize what we're saying to them.
wow. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. That's just amazing. Um, one of the things before I let it, before we keep going on this, but when you were talking about the joyful teachers, like I mean, besides some of the benefits that the being heard and potentially bonused and things like that, what else do you feel are those key things for your teachers?
So we leave everything at the door. We even joked once to say we're going to hang a hook outside the front door and say that's where you leave your baggage every day. And it starts from the top down, although we're not really a hierarchy. I really see things as yes, we have a strong leadership in the school, but we're all serving the child. And our entire purpose each day is to say, we're here starting at 8 a.m. for these 3 year olds, 5 year olds, 9 year olds, 12 year olds who are forming the adult. That is the child's purpose, is
Mhm.
to form the adult. And we're giving them every opportunity to do that in a positive way. In order to do that from the top down, we show up with smiles on our faces, greeting them every morning in a positive way, hugging each other. We have a huge hugging culture here.
Oh,
You know, all the educators help one another. There isn't this instance of or these scenarios where it's I'm doing this and I don't have time for you because there's just not that kind of structure set up at the schoolhouse. We're all
mm.
here for the same mission and purpose and all collectively working together as colleagues to make that happen. It also really helps that we only have two rules for working at the schoolhouse, and that is no politics, no gossip. So we will part ways with educators that participate in either one of those things. Knock on wood, we have not had to do that very often. Teachers really respect the fact that there's no politics in the school and there isn't going to be anyone talking about them or making them feel less than in the hallways.
Wow, that's so good. Oh my gosh. I love that. What was I going to ask you, darn? So sorry, I should know this, but what is the schoolhouse? Is it a private school? Is it a charter school model?
No, so we're a fully independent school in New
Okay.
York. We take no public money. We never wanted to take public money. We have been able to sustain ourselves with donations from my husband and I and one other large giving family. And now we've moved towards sustainability. And that means that we are completely sustainable with tuition, some giving, but then with our Schoolhouse Anywhere program, that is a homeschool program that anybody can use based on this model, we're able to then take that money and build more schools and sustain this school. So it's a nonprofit. It's really the only curriculum out there or homeschool program now where every dollar you spend not only enriches your child, but it goes back into putting a schoolhouse in every town in America.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome and amazing. So, because you mentioned homeschool, there's got to
Yeah.
be things that we can do for our kids. So as we're recording this, we it's early August, so we're going into school season, and the kids maybe they haven't done much this summer, maybe they've been playing a lot, which is great. But how do we get
Mhm.
them re-engaged and back into the mode?
So, when it comes to our educators or even as a parent, you want to frame everything for your child. One of the things we want to say to everybody who visits the schoolhouse is children need freedom within structure. The structure is so important. And what you find with traditional school is that there's way too much actually negative structure. I wouldn't even call it real structure. It's just negative sort of containment. And then with alternative schools, you have way too much freedom. So the child doesn't really understand where the boundaries are. So as we're heading into school, we always like to say communicate with the child. That's first and foremost. What are the expectations that you're setting out for the child? We do that in our first week of school here. And that creates a normalization of our children to understand what their responsibilities are. And so when you're going into a situation where you're leaving sort of an unstructured environment, which is summer, which I do think we should all have, and playing and just being a child, my sons did that as well. You want to relate to them that this is going to be a new adventure in learning. This is going to be maybe a different type of learning where you're going to have all these experts that are going to be there teaching you the things that you ever wanted to know. You could dream as wild as you want to, and they're going to be there giving you information and opportunity for you to learn these things. And then get right into dialogue with your child about what are some of those things that you want to know? What are some of the things that are so interesting to you that you can't wait? And of course, a very young child is going to say a tiger or this particular flower or dragons. And it's really important then to communicate to your educator. We do that intrinsically in our curriculum. But if you're not using our curriculum, one of the things you can do is to communicate, my child is obsessed with, and fill in the blank. So if they're obsessed with dragons, that is going to be your cue to a good educator to say, that's how I'm going to get this child interested in reading or interested in math or any of the core skills that we really need to have. That interest is really key. And you want to be aware of that as a parent. Two or three things that your child just adores so that you can line up their academic success aligned with what their passions are.
That's great. That is, and it's going to be age appropriate, right? Like you said, like the little
Yes.
ones are going to like dinosaurs, and then yeah, right.
Yes, and then we have some older kids obsessed with baseball at 8 years old, and that's how we'll get them involved. But any good educator is going to make the lesson interesting on the whole, and
Mhm.
then for individual learners is going to be able to hone in on those learners to give them access points. Read this great book about this baseball legend, or let's go and find a baseball diamond and measure that out and then convert from feet to inches or centimeters. There's so many interesting ways that you can get children interested in education. The way we do it now is in public school is not the way to do it. It's too rote and it's too based on antediluvian methods.
Antediluvian. Yeah. Um, so what else? Like, I mean, I'm guessing that people are listening and they're thinking, well, gosh, my school doesn't do this, right? Like they have 30
Yeah.
kids that they have to deal with. Like, what else can we do? So I'm guessing we need to supplement at home.
Yes, so there are a lot of things that you can do as parents. I mean, once again, I feel very fortunate that our mission to reach every child in this country is coming true with this online program we've set up. So parents everywhere can access it. But I'll give you a few more pointers, and that is that one of the things the American Emergent curriculum does that I have not found, Mary Jo. I mean, I have searched. If you find it, write me an email. But there isn't a single curriculum, if schools even have curriculum programs, because most of them don't. They just have standards, and then you're kind of left on your own as an educator. But I have not been able to find a curriculum program in the United States that aligns to development stages. So I'm going to let
Mm,
your listeners in on a couple of really important things. Childhood development is the same, provided that all things are equal. Your child is going to hit certain academic milestones. So from 0 to 6, or from 3 to 6 more specifically, your child is interested in four things. They are interested in language acquisition. So when you're pointing out something to them, you don't want to say that flower, that doggy. You want to say that sunflower, that rose, that German shepherd, because their brain is hardwired to take in as many words as possible.
mm,
Number two, they are very interested in order. So the more orderly their room is, for instance, I see this happen all the time where parents have a ton of clothes in the dresser and the dresser is maybe very high. You want to bring that dresser very low, have them have access to that dresser so that they can help, right? They want to keep their own order, they want to move. And also, if you have 25 outfits for the toddler, you want to make sure you only put 4 out. So it's very easy for them to understand and to map out. Order is critical. So if they're in any environment that is messy or disorderly, you're going to find them having those tantrums. The third thing is movement. So movement in the sense that take them out of that buggy. If you're taking them into a restaurant, don't put them in the car seat. Put them on your shoulder, or let them, or your hip rather, or let them walk. Take those binkies out. They have to be moving. That their sole purpose right now is to get control of their gross and fine motor skills. And finally, your child is sensorial. So everything they want to touch, you need to let them touch it, providing that it's safe.
Hmm.
You can put out a plate of all the different fruit varieties and just put it there, and your child will figure out, oh, okay, banana skin, that's smooth. And you can start aligning words with their sensorial experience. The smallest seeds in the world are on the strawberry on the exterior. Great. You can feel those and understand what a seed is. And there's so much language acquisition in that sensorial experience. From 6 to 12, they have a completely different experience. And if would you like me to share 6 to 12?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Great. They might have older siblings,
Yeah,
right? So 6
right.
to 12, they are really interested in the why. So it's no
Mm-hmm.
longer about language acquisition. It's about why is a spoon called a spoon. So waiting until high school to teach Latin roots is a waste of time. You want to be
Mm-hmm.
teaching those starting at 6 years old because that is what the child developmentally is looking for. This is also the most imaginative your child will ever be. So you want to make sure art is a part of every single day. In fact, although we have structured art where we do teach technique once a week, we put an atelier or art studio in every single classroom in the second year here when we figured that out. Because you're also able to assess through art. What did they take out of a lesson? How are they seeing it? How are they producing it through art? And so, imagination, storytelling, allowing them to write their own stories without restrictions like write 2 paragraphs or write 5 lines. Those things don't work for this age group. You can work
Mm-hmm.
up to that, but they don't inspire creativity. And then also in 6 to 12, and this is the real heartbreak for public and most private schools and why they don't work. And that is that this is the most social your child will ever be. Forget socializing them at 2. They're not really that interested in that. They're interested in figuring out their own body. But come 8, 9, 10, they want to be with colleagues. And so our school and our curriculum is set up for you to work at tables. This desk scenario has to go, has to go. um, what you've done is you have isolated now children who want to work and collaborate and learn these skills. And the only time you're really giving it to them is in the lunchroom, which is complete chaos, or at recess.
Yes.
So your child right now is going to want to be with other children and going to want to create and collaborate. And that's really important to align the things you're doing to those areas of where they're most interested in improving or developing.
Hmm. Wow, those are
That
amazing.
was long-winded. Sorry.
No, no, no. I was really good. And I also was thinking, as people are listening, then now they'll know what to expect for as their kids get older, right? And so maybe their kids are little right now, but they'll know as they go into, I guess six years old is like first grade-ish, first or
Yes.
second. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So then you get into that age group, then now you need to know these, like you said, the whys and the imagination and the social
And
piece. I think people don't think about that social piece like
they
that.
don't. And also, from 6 to 12 is the reasoning mind. So we do a lot of geometry in our curriculum. And, people often say, well, why would you have to teach Euclid? We're never going to use that in the real
Mhm.
world. And most of the time on those statements, I agree. That's why we teach finance and a lot of every child in the school starts their own company, even as young as 5. We teach them all of those life skills. But in terms of geometry, from 6 to 12 years old, your child is very focused on developing their reasoning mind. If A,
Mhm.
then B. And geometry is a huge way to do that, to start critical thinking and problem solving skills. It's also a lot of fun and there's a lot of movement to it. So 6 to 12, you want to focus on geometry as a way to also get them into math if they're not crazy about math.
Oh, wow. Those are great. That's great. This is amazing. I think that, I'm sure that people are listening and they're like, darn, I wish I lived in New York so I can take my kid to the school.
Well, you
But
can now. You can. One of the things we encourage is, listen, I was just a mom. And so, and not just a mom, because, we do a lot and we're responsible for a lot. But we already have a group of parents in Central Florida, a group of parents in Southern Florida, a group of parents in Texas. They are already getting together and homeschooling with this curriculum. One of them already started a micro school of 60 kids. So I often say to people, no one is coming. no one is coming to rescue your children and put them in the best educational
Mm.
environment. It is
Mm.
just you, your husband or wife, your friends, a few educators, and a child that is looking to you to really give them the best of what they need to become a whole human being. And so we want to empower people to do that and not wait around for a system that is just not going to change.
No, that's right. No one's coming. Oh my gosh. And it doesn't look like it's going to get reformed. I mean, the strength of some of the, organizations in the public school system are just impenetrable.
Mhm.
What is there a difference between, sorry, this is a kind of a random question, but is there a difference between a micro school and a learning pod? Are they kind of the same or is
They're the same, actually.
okay.
What we're finding is we have 300,000 educators have left education in the last 4 years. It's been the
How
largest
many?
attrition of 300,000.
What?
Yeah. So what we're saying to educators is please don't become that barista and please don't go out and work in retail. You work too hard to get your master's degree. We have a program here that will train you no matter where you are in the United States that will support you. Call the 5 families that you know that don't like public school or private school and tell them, here's a building. Here we go. Let's do it. We have the American Emergent curriculum. We can start this up. And same goes for parents who are tired of everything. We're all tired for a different reason, but we all know it's wrong. I've yet to meet one person in the United States. I think the one thing we can all agree on, maybe in this country, is that we are not hitting it out of the park in education. And so there are so many parents that we just want to say to them, you can do this. You can do
Mm.
this. I was working when I started this project. Obviously, it's become a lifelong mission now, but you have the power to do it. And in fact, you're the only one that has the power to do
Wow. And I love featuring moms that get things done. I mean, that's just my
it.
favorite thing, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
talked to a woman who helped her son with dyslexia. We talked to a woman who helped heal her sons from allergies and autism symptoms. I mean, they didn't know what else to do, so they did it themselves. And I love that you
Yeah.
took the power back and you did it yourself. That's incredible. I mean, that data about educators leaving is unbelievable. Um,
Yes.
before I have you tell us more about where to find you, one last question: Is there? it- I'm I'm sorry if this is a loaded question, but with kids who have learning challenges, is that a social construct or is that really happening? How do you sort of address that with your school or with your curriculum?
I think yeah, it's a great question, and it's a little bit of both. I mean, the great thing about the American Emergent curriculum is that you can use it no matter who you are as a parent and a child. If you have challenges, of course, it's there. It's flexible enough to do that. It gives enough structure for the parent to feel like, wow, they're meeting their milestones and where they need to be. And standards are important. I'm not anti-standard. I'm anti the way we get there to standards. But we have many parents who use our program who have children with challenges. I have to say, a lot of those children who have challenges, those challenges disappear as they start to use our curriculum because what are we doing? We're feeding their soul. They're outside, they're in nature, they're not on a screen all day. I mean, one of the most horrific things we did in this country is give a Chromebook to every kindergartner because not only did we take away their learning ability by putting something on a screen, we took away their time outside and in nature. So we see a dramatic change. Of course, there's challenges that cannot be overcome simply by an environment. But I will tell you this, that these children have more interest in learning than they've ever had before because they're getting stories and interesting tidbits and crazy facts, and they're getting to build companies and build structures and still can ace a test.
Hmm.
And that's why it took us over a decade to develop it, Mary Jo, because we wanted to be able to say with certainty, we don't want to sell parents another thing that
Hmm.
they cannot rely on.
Hmm.
I've not been paid in my time being here. We've only given to this cause, and that's because I don't believe that learning is a business opportunity. It's a birthright for your child.
Hmm.
And so we wanted this program to be the very best program for children in America. And we think
Hmm.
it is at this point.
Wow. Well, I mean, it sounds so fantastic. I love hearing about it. I love hearing how people are just like children are so inspired because that is one of those things that like the kids just they don't want to go to school and to have your kids want to come to school on snow days and summer and they don't like to have summer break because they want to stay at school. I mean, that says it all. I think it's just amazing. So Well, before I let you
Thank you.
go, let us know how can people find out more about the school, about you, about all the anything that you would like everybody to know.
Oh, it's so kind of you. So if you want to see the school model, it's theschoolhouse.org, and that is our home site. That's a way for you to just see what we do here in New York. But even more exciting is tshanywhere.org. So TSH, of course, stands for the schoolhouse, anywhere.org. And that's where, if you're a homeschooling parent, if you're a microschooling educator or parent, or even if you want to build a large school like this one, we help you through that process. And we're very hands-on. We want people to understand what a great curriculum program can be and how it will affect your child in so many positive ways. And, I'm fortunate enough to see it here every day, but it feels really good because here we cap out at 150 kids. We don't have the space and we've always had a wait list. But now the time that I spent night after night thinking about those other 20, 30, 40 million kids that don't get this is finally being able to reach those children and have them get the true benefit of this program and their parents and educators as well, because
Mhm.
no parent wants to struggle with learning. Your child
Mhm.
is a natural born learner when they are born,
Mhm.
and we need to retain that in this country.
Absolutely, absolutely, and keep it the momentum through the high school, and so that they can finish strong.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
That's right.
amazing. Well, thank you, Moses, so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I think that the listeners are going to get a ton out of this, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary Jo. Thanks for what you're doing. And I really I have so much gratitude because it's thanks to you that we get the word out about changing school in America.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
This has been the Teaching Your Toddler podcast with Mary Jo Tinlin. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you'll find us on our website at teachingyourtoddler.com, as well as on Facebook at Teaching Your Toddler, on Instagram, and on Twitter at Teaching Toddler. So join us again, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you so much.